It is time. Well, I don't know where everyone is other than the fact that it's a beautiful day and they're all moving slowly, so it's good to have you all. Today is a little bit different than our normal Sunday because we're really just going to, I'm going to do a devotion. We're going to sing a little bit, but then we're just going to have a conversation, and I'm going to update you on where things are with our building, what's going on, and just talk about the church and what we need to do, who we need to be. Originally, we were going to do this every fifth Sunday, and then I kept scheduling things to happen on fifth Sundays so that we didn't do it. So hopefully we're going to get back into that schedule where on anytime there's a fifth Sunday, we have this time. We eat, we drink. If you haven't gotten coffee, if you haven't gotten snacks, feel free to go ahead and do it anytime you get hungry, that's fine. So hi, come on in. Yeah, we're right on time. You're right on time. I just started early. I got ambitious. So today's going to be different. We can handle change, right? Okay, good. As I begin today, just a couple of announcements. First of all, just a reminder that if you have kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews that are like teenage age, like preteen and up, we are going to be gathering today at 3 o'clock over at the Plainfield, over at Grace United Methodist Church in Plainfield, which is the church in the center of Plainfield, the big white one with the stone wall. It's going to be our first kind of parish-wide youth gathering. It's going to have hopefully folks from here, folks from Barry. So if you know of any kids that might be interested, bring them over at 3 o'clock. We'll have some pizza. We'll play some games. We'll do some stuff. It'll be fun. And I think that's all the announcements. Dick, do you have anything? Michael, grab your microphone. You're going to need it. So would you take it over to Dick so that Dick can share some updates this morning? Thank you.
Yes, on Thursday, this past week, we had 94 meals that we served, so it's getting up closer to 100 every week. Things went reasonably well. It's amazing about 11:20 or so to see the line that forms way back where you are now toward right. The door, that people waiting for their lunch meal. And then the Good Samaritan Haven, the delivery went very well, and they were very appreciative of the meal that we delivered. They come out and help us bring it into the Good Samaritan Haven. And Kathy and I had a hard time, but we avoided getting into Robert Emmons' chocolate chip cookies that he makes, and he provided ice cream this time, and we didn't touch it at all.
Good deal.
Thanks again. The next time is October 25th, our chance.
Good deal. Anybody else have anything we need to share? Okay, would you bow in prayer with me? God of all of us, as we gather today, open our hearts to your Spirit. Help us to see with new eyes and love with bigger hearts. Amen. And Vicki, if you go ahead, we're going to sing any time United Methodist Church, we have an important meeting. We always sing a song called "And Are We Yet Alive?" And so we're going to sing the first 4 verses of that. We're going to do that acapulco. I'm sorry, I forgot Spirit of the Living God. Thank you. So let's sing this verse. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Melt us, mold us, fill us, use us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. And then if you have a hymnal, you could turn to page 553 in our hymnal. Anytime Methodists meet, for an important meeting, we sing this song as a way to start off the meeting. So if you ever go to like the annual conference session, we always begin with "And Are We Yet Alive?" And if you don't need it, you don't have to have a hymnal. It's going to be on the screen, but if you've got one, it's 553. Okay, you ready? We're going to try this a cappella. We can do this. And are we yet alive, and see each other's face? Glory and thanks to Jesus give for his almighty grace, preserved by power divine to full salvation here. Again in Jesus' praise we join, and in his sight appear. What troubles have we seen? What mighty conflicts past? Fightings without and fears within, since we assembled last. Yet out of all the Lord hath brought us by his love, and still he doth his help afford, and hides our life above. And you can be seated. So I'm going to begin our time with just a short devotional. Of course, you know I'm a preacher, and I always have to say more words than I should, but I'm going to try to keep it short if I can. So I want to begin with a scripture reading from the book of Revelation. And John, as he was having his vision, heard these words. He said, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the former heaven and the former earth had passed away. Then the one on the throne said, 'Look, I'm making all things new.'" It's an important scripture for us because we have gone through a lot of change, particularly here in our state. We've seen what has happened in our community and communities around us in the wake of significant flooding, to the point where July 10th has become a day we all want to just stay in bed because of the floods in our state. We see more people homeless in our state than we've ever seen before. Families and individuals are having a hard time finding a place to live because rents and housing is so expensive. And our country is at a time where we feel as divided and angry as we've ever felt in our lives. But we need to remember that this is not the end of the story for God. The prophet Isaiah, when he was writing and doing his prophecies, was living in a time where it felt like to the people the world had collapsed. And yet God speaks to Isaiah in Isaiah 43 and says, "Look, I am doing a new thing." I think sometimes we miss out on seeing what God is doing or thinking about what God is doing because we spend more time looking backwards than we do forwards. John Wesley, who's the founder of all of this, he's the reason we're here, he knew about hard times too. He took the gospel outside of the church walls, something that he thought was anathema, to reach people that others had forgotten. "The world is my parish," he said. He didn't let the old ways of doing things stop him from finding new ways to love people. Now, how many of you all have ever read the United Methodist Book of Discipline? I didn't think so. It's good bathroom reading. But the Book of Discipline is our book of rules, of laws, and doctrines. It basically says, you want to know what it means to be United Methodist? This is who we are. And one of the sections in the Book of Discipline is called the ministry of all Christians. It says that all Christians, every one of us, are called to serve in the world. You see, sometimes we go around thinking that, well, the job of ministry is the pastor's job. We pay him to do that. He does the ministry. We just sort of exist. But in the Methodist Church, we understand that it takes all of us, every one of us, to be able to do the work of God's love here in the community. And we need to understand that God, at this point, more than ever, God needs us, each one of us, to be engaged and to be active. I think it's important because we've been placed in this location at this particular time for a particular purpose, which is to share love to people who are really struggling, to share love to people who have lost their homes to floods or are sleeping in their cars, and to help a community that sometimes feels torn apart come back together. These aren't somebody else's problems that are going to get fixed. These are our problems, and it's our chance to show God's love up front, up close. John Wesley, again, I'm going to mention him a lot in this devotion, said that we must stick to what we believe, but we must be willing to try new ways of sharing. And so when he saw poverty in his time, he just didn't talk about love, say, oh, those poor people, we love them. No, he went out and he built clinics and schools. When he heard about how horrific it was in prisons, he went and visited in the prisons. He knew that in hard times, the church has a responsibility to act. And the problems we face today, the problems that all of us are living with in this state, problems of poverty and health care and all that we're struggling with, they need real action, things that we can do to help people. And we do that through our community meals, through the community table and our leadership in that program. Because we understand that we can't just talk about God loving people while families are choosing between rent and food. They need to know that some of their basic needs are met. Paul says that we should become all things to all people so that we could save others by every possible means. And it wasn't giving up our beliefs. It is about how do we let love shape what we do. And so as we think about our churches today, I think we have to ask ourselves, where do we see God at work in the work that we're doing here? What are the new ways that we can help people? How do we show God's love to the people here in Montpelier? And what does it mean for each and every one of us to be called a minister? That all of us are ministers together. Most of all, we must, again, remember one other John Wesley teaching. He said, though we may not all think alike, may we not love alike. We're going to have differences of beliefs, differences of understandings, different political backgrounds, all of those kinds of things, but we are still called to love one another. This isn't about going back to easier times. We're stepping into what God is calling us to do right now. We're learning what it means to be United Methodist in Vermont, people who care about both personal faith and helping our community to heal. Finally, we must remember that the Methodists of Wesley's time, they didn't have buildings. They didn't have programs. Some of them didn't even have paid preachers. What they had was the Spirit, and they had each other, and the strong belief that God was calling them to love others. And they figured it out as they went along. They didn't have a great plan. They just discovered day by day where God was calling them. And that's where we are at right now. We don't have a big plan. We don't have a big staff. We don't have big programs. We've got a building that's on the edge. And yet we go through day by day to see where God is calling us and how we can carry out God's work of love. We don't know what's coming, but we know that God is with us, and that in knowing right here in this place that God has given us, we find courage to make all things new together as we all minister together. And so may the God of possibilities give us the wisdom for today's decisions and creativity for the challenges we face. May God help us be faithful in times of change and love, and to be brave agents of love. And may our work in our conversation today show God's grace. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and all God's people said, amen. So this is I'm going to give just a quick report on kind of where we are church-wise and what's going on, and then I'm going to open the floor, and Michael's going to run around with the microphone and allow you to talk into it so that people online can hear. But I want to just give kind of an update on where we are with some stuff related to the building, because there's a lot of folks are sometimes concerned about where we are. I want to say to start off that one of the things that I need your help and that we all need to be engaged in is helping folks understand that our church is still open and active and doing things. I had somebody in the community, somebody that should know kind of what's going on in the church, ask me, "Oh, your church is still open? I thought you all had closed down." So there is sometimes this misunderstanding because we don't have as much stuff going on in the building as we used to, that our church isn't open, that we're not doing things, we're not doing Sunday morning worship, those kinds of things. So I need you, as you're talking with your friends, to remind folks, no, Trinity Church is alive and well, and we are doing stuff in the community, and we are also still having worship on Sunday mornings. As you know, we had a lot of, I know I'm walking out of the camera, sorry, Vicki. As you know, we faced pretty significant damage in the basement from in the 2023 flood. And we have been in a process for determining what that means and what is going to have to be done. The engineering process has taken much longer than we would have expected. We have been working, last year was when we finally moved forward to get a definitive engineering process to say, okay, this is what you're going to need. This past summer, we've had two different engineering companies one is doing kind of design work for us, the other was looking at the ground and some of the what we call the geotechnical stuff. And we are very, very close to having a definitive plan for what we're going to need to do for the basement. For those who don't know, the basement foundation was eroded because the water was so strong it pushed all the mortar out from between the stones. Now, before you all run out of the room screaming, the foundation is stable. They say the weight of the building is enough to hold the church in place unless it floods again. And so the goal is to get the foundation fixed so that it won't float downstream the next time it floods. What that probably means is that from the last conversation I had this week with the engineering company is that we will be doing what's called a wet waterproofing, which means that we won't be able to really use the basement. It will be created, it'll be in such a way that when it floods again, and it probably will flood again, we've seen that in this town, the water will actually flow through the basement, but taking the pressure off the foundation. We will know more about what that looks like, hopefully in the next week or two, and then we will start getting bids on what it would cost to do the work. It probably means what they would call retuck pointing the basement, where they will fill in all the gaps with mortar that got washed out. I don't think it's going to mean excavating the foundation, which at some point we thought we might have to do. So that's where we are in that process. We have been waiting to determine what to do with what's going to happen with the basement before we can make any decisions about how we get a lift to be able to start being in the sanctuary. And the sanctuary we are not using right now because the only way to get it up there is by stairs, and we're not going to worship it there when it's not handicapped accessible or elderly accessible. The stairs are pretty demanding, and so we're waiting until we can get such a way to get folks to the second floor, which is why we're not worshiping in the sanctuary. Sanctuary's fine. It's ready to go, as we saw with Linda Hunter's funeral, but we think for our Sunday services we will continue down here. That's kind of where we are. We are going to still have to move the boilers upstairs. That probably is going to mean adding an addition onto the back of the building where the dumpsters are right now. But until we know the basement part, we can't really begin to think through what that might mean. That's where we are with the building. Any questions about that? The good news is we're able to fully use this first floor. And community meal is happening here 4 days a week, and it's a good thing. The bad news for us is that we have basically lost a third of our building to use. And it was a third we used a lot. But we will continue to move forward and see where we go from there. So, questions, comments, concerns? Bathrooms, yes, we need more bathrooms, but until we know with the basement what we're doing, how we can relocate the bathrooms and all of that kind of stuff, because we definitely need more bathroom spaces. Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay. Yes, Bob.
Well, I was just wondering, okay, now you talked about the lift, and I've asked this question before, but until we do something with the basement, is there any way that they can just put the bottom at the lift and just use the lift from here? I mean, and have you or anybody talked about how we can just?
Yeah. So let me say about the lift. The lift is not repairable. It's going to have to be replaced. And the question becomes, what the engineers have said so far, and what the lift people have said is, if you're not going to need the lift to go to the basement, don't make it go to the basement. And because then you'll still get damage and all when it floods down there. So that's what the question is it may be possible for us to use the basement for bathroom space or something like this in a limited basis, but it would only be with stuff that we're okay that's going to get flooded. And so there's some questions we have to figure out about that. But once we do that, then yes, we can figure out. I will also tell you, Dick knows that I'm on this bandwagon. After the last funeral up there, we're going to try to figure out a way to get a lift where you can actually roll a casket into it. Because trying to carry a casket up those stairs, we're really lucky that somebody didn't get hurt. It's just those stairs are not big enough. As crazy as it sounds, they're not big enough to get 6 people around it and make the turn. So not that we've had a lot of funerals upstairs in recent years, but we got to be prepared. So we got to think through that. So yes, I think as soon as we know for sure this is what the plan is for the basement, then we can really get on, okay, this is what it's going to take to get the lift in place. Other questions? Comments? Yes, ma'am.
Possible time when we're going to use the sanctuary?
Well, are you talking about in eternity, or are you talking about No, there is no possible time right now that we are scheduled to use the sanctuary. And again, it's because we have people that can't get into the sanctuary.
Right.
And so until we have a way to get them in, then yeah, we're at this point. So until this is a step-by-step process. Until the engineers tell us what we can do, we're kind of limited in what we can do. Once they tell us and we then have a plan, then we can start projecting times.
Well, I just told my family I have made funeral arrangements for myself.
Yeah.
And I just, hopefully that they could use the sanctuary.
Well, we will, as you saw with Linda Hunter,
Right.
we will figure it out.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
But we, obviously, I will just say that the lifting of the casket up there was a little bit treacherous.
Right,
and
exactly,
so
yeah.
we did it,
Yeah.
and nobody's dead. I did
Right.
hurt my elbow, but other than that,
Right.
It's possible, but it's not ideal. So
Right.
we want to make that a little.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Others? I mean, if somebody comes along and says, I want to have the funeral in the sanctuary, we will have the funeral in the sanctuary. We'll figure out how to do it.
Well, I don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah. But I will say, again, this was one of the, we had a person come to that funeral who was on a walker, who was so determined that she was going to get upstairs, she basically literally crawled up the stairs. We don't want to ask people to do that. Yeah. So other building stuff, questions, comments? Okay. Enough of the building. I'm tired of the building. I spend more time thinking about the building than I'd like. So here's what I want to do. Michael, you're going to be real busy now, because just watch for people's hands. If you'd raise your hand when you do it. I want you to share something that you want to celebrate in this church. Things that are going well. Things that you are pleased with what we're doing. What do you want to celebrate and lift up that is something good that the church is doing right now? So, Dick. And don't take everything, Dick. Leave something for somebody else. Okay.
Just focusing on the community lunch program, the community table, as we now call it. It's marvelous how the four churches have been working together. Sure, there are issues and challenges to work through, odds and ends and this and that, but really I think we should celebrate that. I think Reverend Norman Vincent Peale used to say, out of every defeat there's victory, and out of the defeat of the flooding and the churches losing the basement and so on, there's victory, that we're able to work together and fulfill this mission of helping people be nourished during the 4 days of the week. And also, connected to that, the St. Augustine's Church, people from that church help us out during the week if needed, so they're also connected.
What else? What other celebrations? Back in the back.
The fact that we can all be here on Sunday together and celebrate together.
Yes. Okay. Others. I can wait you out. We're blessed that we have this
Yeah.
area for
I
worship.
mean, even though the flood just washed a lot, but
Yeah.
at least we're blessed, right?
We are. Others? Other celebrations? Other things that we've done this past year that you are pleased with?
We were blessed that Kathy helped us do quite a few lawn sales out front to help
Yeah.
raise money.
So the lawn sales out front, thrift sales. Yeah, Kathy.
The plan for the meeting of the youth in Plainfield this afternoon, I think, is a wonderful step forward.
Absolutely. Others? Okay.
Go on, Daniel.
What are we not doing? Oh, were you going to say something? Oh, never mind. Yeah, go ahead.
People in Trinity and Pastor Jay.
Oh, thank you. So there are things to celebrate. What are some things where we need to, so I'm going to back up. Over here on our wall is a mission statement that we kind of all adopted together, and it says, our vision for Trinity United Methodist is to be a community of acceptance where people work together to find physical, emotional, and spiritual fulfillment. What are some things, if you were going to just brainstorm and say, boy, I wish our church would do this in alignment with those kinds of things, what would you want our church to offer, or what want our church to do? What are some things you'd like to see us take on? Yes.
I'm still waiting for some flags and maybe a large banner outside so that people don't ask, are you still open? Because I've had that as well when I've been shoveling snow out there. Oh, I thought you guys were closed.
We'll work on that. Just remember that when I ask for the money. So,
It's fine with me.
okay. Others, what other things would you, if you were going to, what do you want our church to do? What do we want our church to offer?
I'd like to find a way that we can have extra clothing and some things here for the needy, people that need it this winter and stuff. Blankets, coats, stuff like that.
Clothing closet kind of thing, yeah.
We're working on it.
Others? Yes, Kathy.
To be able to reach out to the greater community and trying to establish a youth-oriented program to include all children within the community.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else? What do you wish we had? Yes, sir.
More people.
More people. Okay. That would be great. How do we get more people, Mom? How do we get more people? I'm
I have
asking
no
you.
idea. Spreading.
You have no idea.
Spreading the word. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, Barbara. Let him bring the microphone so people can hear you online. We want people to hear
Maybe
you.
I shouldn't say it, but anyway. I think when we started Zoom, it took a lot of people away from church.
So when we started doing online church, it took people away.
Yeah.
And that's true post-COVID. What I would say is that COVID took people away, and a lot of folks got out of the habit of going to church. A lot of folks went to church for years because it was habit. And then they got out of it. It was kind of like, oh, I kind of like having my Sunday mornings. And I understand. I like sitting at home watching CBS Sunday morning and drinking coffee too. But I get it. I think there is something to be.
I think it's good.
But I would also say one of the things we have to recognize is, so in Northfield we actually use Zoom as opposed to YouTube. For a lot of reasons, I think YouTube works better for us. But they will actually, we have them up on the screen so we know how many people are there. And we've got 5 to 10 people that are very regular every Sunday, and that's the way they participate. And so I think that's part of what we're just not aware of that, how many people are actually participating or watching, but there's something different about being in person. I have no doubt about that. Others? Yeah, Bob, or let's go to Bob and then we'll come back to you. Oh, okay.
Well, I guess I was just thinking of something, what Kathy was saying earlier, about more younger people coming in to church. I mean, if we all get together and reach out to the other churches with the community meals about their children, their younger adults that are going there, to all get together, maybe like once a month in a different church or something like that. Yeah. I mean, we all know anybody who's been coming to church for quite a while. At one time, we had 8, 10 kids in church every Sunday.
One of the things I will say, Vicki, I'm going to come to you, I promise. One of the things I will say is that, so Pastor Ray over at the Heading Church and I are very close friends, and our bishop in the New England Conference is really promoting what he calls cooperative parishes, where churches work together and do things a lot more in a cooperative way, and words are hard, cooperative way. And so she and I are talking about what that looks like with the 3 churches that I serve and the Heading Church in Barrie. The Heading Church is doing pretty well. They've been growing. Some of that is because the pastor's been there a little while and they've got some continuity and some good things are happening. But we're continuing to talk about how we work together. And that's why this youth group thing, that's where we're starting with, is how do we start something for all 4 churches where we can come together and kind of share the wealth of energy. Vicki, you had your hand up a minute ago.
I guess I have a couple of things. One of the things would be, it would be nice to have, to not have to rely on our pastor for our music accompaniment. But also, I was going to say that in connection with the Zoom things. We are extremely fortunate in that when COVID did come, we had a pastor who was capable of keeping us together in some way. Otherwise, we would have lost our entire membership.
No, absolutely. No, it's COVID. I will say, I was leading the congregation I was leading in Nashville during COVID. It was a hard time for pastors. I worked as much, if not more, during that time as I did when we were actually meeting in person. It took a lot of work. What other things? I would agree with the musician thing. I would love to not to have to do music, because when I have to do it in 3 places, what it ends up meaning is that I'm pretty much on my feet for a solid 4 to 5 hours, and it then takes energy, and so yeah, it does wear me out, and I am having to confront the fact that I am not as young as I think I am sometimes. Others? Yeah, Debbie.
I am wondering if there are ways to bring people in from the community that also are part of our strengths. So for example, the vulnerable populations we serve at community table, is there a way that if we can't be a shelter or a warming place, is there a way that we offer like community workshops on, like invite people into the space because we have so much connection with them?
Yeah.
Similarly, if we can't be the thrift store anymore, could we have like a community yard sale and invite people to come for the day and bring their things, and maybe we get folks here and on the property, but then they all take their stuff that doesn't sell at the end of the day too.
Yeah. And I will say that on the thrift sale that Vicki and Marianne and a gentleman named Michael Wood have been working and kind of thinking together about what that's going to look like in the future. And so we're going to keep that going as much as we can. You know, again, within the limitations of what we've got, we know we are short on space. So trying to figure out how to make that work is something we got to figure out. Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm not sure how close I'm to hold this to my mouth. Along with what Debbie said, I was thinking about some kind of an art sale. I had been thinking about that too. But if we did have whatever that might be, maybe we could have a meal that's maybe like a to-go meal, or some kind of maybe a bake sale, something else that's kind of going on. There could be like little vignettes within this room.
Absolutely.
I think it's easy to look at this as one big room and one thing is going on. But we did at one time have that section over there blocked off where Didel had children, and their Sunday school class was over there.
Right.
So we could easily like have maybe, I say easily, have partitions or something where if something needs to be kind of, I don't want to say necessarily private, but so that the sounds don't travel over to the other areas. But we have already a system in place with community table that I thought maybe that could be something with a food offering to be a bit of a fundraiser.
Right.
And that might just bring people in separately than something else.
Sure.
And congratulations, I talked on the microphone.
Yay! Anyone else? Any other ideas? So I want to, first of all, a couple of things I do want to mention, things that I think I'm still struggling with. And as you know, the church juggling thing that I do along with trying to take care of my spouse and all of that makes for an interesting schedule. But one of the things that I know is that, I would love to be able to offer more study opportunities, Bible study, discipleship opportunities. I find that kind of difficult to work into the schedule, particularly. And so what I've done is I've done those as Zoom classes so that I could get all three churches in the mix. I'm planning on doing a one here coming fairly soon. And Debbie, I'll tell you that you inspired me on this one. I want to do kind of an introduction to United Methodism, a United Methodism 101, where we talk about, our history and our beliefs and how we're structured and all of that kind of stuff. Because I think there are a lot of folks that don't know who we are, and so I'm going to probably do that as a Zoom class. I'm also going to do something that is probably a little different, but I think might be helpful. And I did this once before, and had a number of folks did it, tuned into it. So I'm going to do a little podcast, okay? And it's going to be called "Walking in the Way of Jesus: A Journey Through the Gospel of Mark." And what it will be a series of 10 to 15 minute, I don't want to say lessons, but kind of a reading through of the entire Gospel of Mark over time, and with a reflection about the passage that we're considering. And the thing about this is that for those who are like, podcast, ooh, that seems weird, or whatever, it's really easy. If you're semi-technologically fluent, then you can easily download it on your phone or whatever. But you can also, you'll be able to go to our website and listen to it there. And it just is kind of an additional devotional thing for your week. And over the course of about 55 or so weeks, we will, over pretty much the course of a year, we will read through together the Gospel of Mark. I like to do that just as a way to, again, Jesus is at the center of this thing that we're a part of, and I like to make sure that folks know that story. And so Mark's Gospel is the easiest one to read. It's the shortest one to read, and so I'm probably going to do that coming up, unless you all just think that's anathema, but that's I'm planning on doing it. Done it before, do it again. The other thing I want to really encourage is, again, I want to go back to that ministry of all Christians thing. Because, yeah, you've got a pastor, but you got a pastor that's split three ways, and probably split more than that, and is limited in what I can do. And that really makes it dependent on people in the church to do these things. The pastor's not going to do it for you. And so the deal is that if you have ideas, you say, man, I'd really like to start a small group around blank, or a book study, or something like that, then do it. Doesn't have to be an official church program. If you just need the space, that's fine. And but that's a way of us expanding our ministry here in the community, both outside and inside the walls. I'll give one example of that. I mean, Stephanie has started, I think it's monthly now, the rug hooking group, where these folks that are really into rug hooking are coming and gathering on a Sunday afternoon and sharing ideas and those kinds of things. And she had 15 or so folks here. And again, that's 15 folks that are in our building and kind of see who we are. So anytime you have an idea, let's do it. You don't even have to ask me for permission. Yes, ma'am. Communication.
How do we find out about Stephanie's thing, or the book group, or whatever you want to, or your Mark thing, or...
Yeah. So communication is an issue. One of the things I need to make sure is, and particularly as new people come in, I need to have your email address because I do try to send emails out fairly regularly. We do an e-weekly, which is an update. So email. The other thing is I want to try to get a little better about keeping the website up to date and keeping up to date on those kind of calendar kind of things. We just were forced to kind of switch website providers and some things like that, so we need to do a little more infrastructure building. But yes, there are things like that we need to do for communication-wise. And I had a request in the Northfield Church for my last meeting about possibly including sort of an announcement sheet in addition to the bulletin. I'm thinking through how to do that logistically. So But that's
Could there be like a weekly e-blast on Friday that goes to all 3 churches and has information so everybody can see what else is happening? I mean, that would be...
Yes, that can happen, and yes, it can. Right now, our e-weekly is just Trinity focused, but I do think I want us to come up with a name for this thing that we have with the other church, where kind of like, you know, I jokingly call it the GNT parish because for Grace, Northfield, and Trinity, but something that kind of identifies and says, we're this thing where we do share some information. But yes, I think that's a great idea. Okay. Yes, Kathy. Kathy over here. Yes.
I'm wondering if someplace like Front Porch Forum would be useful to announce those kinds of things that you're thinking about running, because in order to have the website work, somebody has to think, I wonder what Trinity's doing, and go to the website to see, whereas Front Porch has a broader audience.
Absolutely, and we need to use it more than we do. We do have a Front Porch Forum, Trinity Front Porch Forum account, and I actually have access to Montpelier, Northfield, and Plainfield Front Porch Forums because they think I'm special or something. I don't know. Anyway, they allow me to have access to all 3. So, but yes, we do need to utilize it more than we do. Okay. Vicki? As well as the Facebook group, you know, the Montpelier area Facebook group, yeah.
All the things that we just now talked about, the e-weekly, Front Porch Forum, website, everything, is still all dependent on him. We don't really have anybody that is a go-between between him and the
Agreed.
e-weekly, Front Porch Forum, that thinks ahead. The e-weekly, we used to have calendars that we could click on
Right.
to see what was coming up, which was important if you wanted to have something here yourself. It was kind of nice to be able to look and see if you're not conflicting with someone. But we don't have the people that are maybe willing and or able to step in and take the burden off of Jay and actually think in terms of creativity. What can we do? And, you know, what would be nice to put into the e-weekly, and making sure that it gets out to a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, if anybody is a communications expert, I would be happy to put you to work. If you have children that are communications experts, tell them they need to come to church, because we would definitely love the help. But there's a danger, my danger is because before I was a pastor, I was a communications guy, and so I know how to do all that stuff, and that can be really dangerous because then folks kind of expect that you will. So, but that would be helpful. The other thing, so I just want to encourage you, if you have ideas, drop me a note, drop me a message, or not just me, drop any member of our leadership board. Who else on the leadership board right now here? It's got Vicki, Bob, Dick, Debbie, Marianne. Go grab them and say, hey, I got this idea. What about this? And we'll, you know, it's not like getting permission. It's just kind of giving us information so we know what's going on. One last thing I want to just say, because we're about out of time. We have to recognize that we're going to have to just think outside the box again and again and again. Richard Rohr, in thinking about God, says that God is always bigger than the boxes we try to put God in. So why do we spend so much time trying to put God in a box? But the church is that way too. Sometimes we have this box of this is what the church has to be, this is what it needs to look like, this is all those kinds of things. This is what we've always experienced. We've always done it that way, right? It's the most famous line in the church. Well, this is just the way we've always done it. the church today, not just our church, churches in general, particularly in Vermont, we have no choice but to think outside the box, because the people have moved on from church. They've got other things that they are focusing on. And yet I would argue that the community needs church more than anything, because people need community. There's been a lot of research lately. There's a book called Bowling Alone that's really good on this, that talks about sort of the decline in society, in some of the polarization and stuff we're facing, is directly tied to the loss of affiliation groups. So used to be everybody was like a member of the Rotary Club or the Civitans or the Elks Lodge or whatever. That not so more. All of those groups are beginning to fail. And even things like bowling leagues, that's where the Bowling Alone came. Bowling leagues are not as popular anymore. People have lost that place to be in relationship with one another, even when they believe different things. It's okay to believe different things. But they had this place where they were spending time and developing friendships and were able to look aside, look across their differences. We need that, and the community needs that. And the church has a place of being able to do that. So we've got to think outside the box. Again, I'm going to give you one example, and before you panic, no decisions have been made or anything, but like I look at the sanctuary and I go, it's a 400-seat, 350-seat sanctuary. We don't need a 350-seat sanctuary, do we? You know, if we, Barbara, if we went to worship right now, it would feel like a cave, because there'd be 15 of us probably spread all over the room, because we can't, we've got to sit in our normal space. And it would be really hard to be able to engage with other people. So maybe what we need to do in the sanctuary, this is just a maybe, all those side sections of pews, what if we were to lose those? What if we were to get rid of the side pews that are up against the windows? Which one gives us some more space to do some things up there, like an art show around the perimeter of the sanctuary, that kind of thing. So again, thinking creatively is going to be really important. And there is no idea that's bad. We may not be able to do it, but the idea, at least presenting something, is always good. So I just encourage you all to do that. So with that, can we sing Blessed Be the Tie? Yes, very quickly. Uh-oh, you're wearing Michael out. Come on. You can do it. Yeah, he's a...
Somewhere I heard the phrase, other than thinking outside the box, enlarge or moving the box.
Right.
Enlarge the box, which I kind of like. I wish I remember where I heard that. Maybe it was from you in one of your sermons.
It might have
been. That's an interesting concept of moving forward and thinking, getting away. I'm old-fashioned, I'm an older person, and got hung up with, that's the way we always have done it. I have to get rid of that thinking, and enlarge or move the box.
Absolutely. Good.
Thank you.
Oh, Kathy, did you have your hand up?
And besides enlarging the box, sometimes if you take something out of the box, you have room for something else to go in.
Absolutely. Ooh, we got all sorts of box analogies here. This is great. Yeah, Barbara? Yeah.
Is there any chance for the food pantry to come into the basement when it's finished?
No.
Really?
The food pantry has said definitively they do not want to come back.
Oh.
Because that was just too traumatic for them. And knowing that the basement has the potential of flooding
Yep.
again, they don't want to do that.
That's sad.
Food pantry, just so that you know, Just Basics is what it's called, is currently meeting in, the city center building. That's where they are.
the worst
But they
place.
are looking for a new location. Looks like the old Woodbelly Pizza on Berry Street, that they may move there. They're talks about that. There's also been some talks about them moving into this building next door. So they're still in the process of figuring that out. One other little announcement I'm going to make while I'm at it, just so that you are aware of work that I do. Of course, I do all the church stuff, but I also work with things like the Montpelier Emergency Cold Weather Shelter. So just to have this on your radar, Used to be in the winter, the Good Samaritan folks would operate what they called the overflow shelter at the Elks Club Lodge out on Country Club Road. That has gone away. And although they're opening up a new program in Montpelier, that's not going to be kind of an emergency weather shelter the way it's been. So there is no specific emergency weather shelter. So a group of us will be opening up in very cold weather an emergency shelter for folks that are living outdoors to stay in. It'll be at the Unitarian Church. We always need volunteers and support for that, so just be aware of it. I'll share more about that later. Okay, let's
I have
do
just
it very
one
quickly
thing.
because I got to hit the road.
Can we buy that building that's empty and think of all the things we could do?
Let's see how much the basement's going to cost first, and then we'll do it. Let's stand and sing. We're going to sing the first and last verse of Blessed Be the Tie That Binds, and it's up here on the screen if you can see it. Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above. And second, when we asunder part, it gives us inward pain, but we shall still be joined in heart and hope to meet again. We're not going to take an offering, but there are offering plates right there in the middle of the room. If you want to give a donation, please leave it there. Again, the brass plate is for the operating expenses of the church, the baskets for community meal. And would you bow in prayer with me? Gracious and loving God, we thank you for bringing us here today. And Lord, we know that there are many needs in our community, many needs here. So we just ask that you be present in every way possible and offer your grace upon grace upon grace. Now send us forth to go out and carry your love into this community. And Lord, help us to be open to whatever you have in store for us. We pray this in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. All God's people said, amen. Y'all have a great week. I won't be here next Sunday, but my former intern, Craig Taylor, is going to be here. He's energetic. He's young. He's a whole lot better pastor than me. Come see Craig.